Joining me now is the Majority Whip in the House of Representatives, Congressman Jim Clyburn of South Carolina. He's also the chairman of the subcommittee on the coronavirus crisis. So we've got a lot to talk about. Whip Clyburn, good to see you again this morning. I want to remind people of something called the Charleston loophole. It existed long before the Charleston shooting, but it was this idea that when you go to buy a gun, the system basically has 3 days to approve you. If it doesn't do it in the 3 days, for whatever reason, if you don't get a denial within 3 days, but you don't get an approval, you can just buy the gun anyway.
That's correct. And that's a big, big problem. In the case of Charleston, and we nicknamed it that loophole, the Charleston loophole, because the Charleston situation, Emmanuel AME Church, 9 poor souls worshiping, doing their Bible study, welcoming a stranger into their midst. And that's what the Bible tells us that we ought to be all about as Christians. They welcomed this gentleman in. He sat there, studied for an hour, and then when they closed their eyes to say the closing prayer, he murdered 9 of them, trying to start a race war. Well, the investigation revealed that he got the gun after 3 days, though they discovered that some information was wrong. The question is, did he give the wrong information intentionally, or did somebody miscue something? So at the end of the 3 days, he went back, he got the gun. What we're saying, we're trying to close this loophole, give the investigators time to do their work. It is determined that 90% of all gun purchases are approved within seconds, but another 97% are approved within the 3 day period. 3% fall outside of that 3 day period. And what we have found is in that 3%, a lot of people, the vast majority of that 3%, are people who get the guns, who are not deserving of having them, who are not qualified to have them, and many of them go out and commit murders like this gentleman did in Charleston. So we're trying to close that by putting in a procedure that gives us 10 days in which to do the work.
And this is called the Enhanced Background Checks Act. Enhanced background checks, strengthening background checks is something that has the support of an overwhelming number of Americans. Red flag laws are something that are popular. Where Democrats run into a wall is on anything to do with so-called assault weapons. Although most of our mass shootings are committed using assault weapons, that's where the gun lobby and Republicans tend to not want to go. So is there a way legislatively, not through executive action, to do things like the Enhanced Background Checks Act, to do things like setting up guidelines for red flag laws that can actually pass both houses of Congress?
Well, I think so. I think that it's become more apparent every day. One of the most recent mass shootings, as you know, took place here in South Carolina as well, up in Rock Hill several days ago. 5 members of full members of the family, and a worker at the home, was murdered by someone, seems to me, just from what I've observed, that's mentally ill, because he was a professional football player who seemed to be suffering from something. They're now going to study his brain, and I think that this kind of information should get us all around the table to deciding on what we can do. Why is it so important to get a gun in 3 days? What's wrong with 10 days? We'll wait 30 days to get something in the mail when we order it online. There's nothing about having a gun within 10 days that's so important. So I think that giving the process time to work is a good thing to do, and I believe that there are more and more people come to that conclusion, and I think that we can get a bipartisan bill done. I do believe that if the Senate were to get the bill to the floor, I think it'll pass.
Whip Clyburn, let me ask you about something that a fellow South Carolinian told me the other night. I was talking to Eugene Robinson of the Washington Post about this criticism that Republicans have of Joe Biden and others, saying that some of these voter suppression laws are like Jim Crow. And Eugene said, sure rhymes with Jim Crow, because Jim Crow in the day was not explicitly about stopping black people from voting, but it's exactly what it was about, and it's exactly what it achieved. What's your take on what is happening across the South right now?
I think that it's the most massive voter suppression activity to take place since the Jim Crow laws. I happen, as you know, to study history pretty much daily. And I can tell you that just because you say it is something, we have to look at the effect of it. And that's what happened in 1965 Voting Rights Act. When you have to prove someone's intentions, require that you get inside their heads, which we cannot do. So you look at the effects of the legislation. What effect will this legislative action have on people trying to vote? So when you are extending periods, when you are changing methods, and when you are criminalizing giving refreshments as people stand in line, if you don't think of anything else, what was the intention of saying it is going to be a criminal act for you to give someone a bottle of water if they're waiting in a long line, that you have shortened the periods and you have made it the lines 4, 5, and 6 hours long? What happens to people who may need to relieve themselves? If you cannot give somebody a bottle of water, what are you going to do if that person has to leave the line to go to the restroom? These are just silly things that we ought to think about and not ever put into law.
Congressman, good to see you again this morning. I always appreciate that you study as much history as you do. It makes our viewers that much wiser every time we talk to you. Democratic Congressman Jim Clyburn of South Carolina is also the majority whip in the House of Representatives.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.